just share that. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Parental with a Purpose. I am your host, Donna Janelle.
And I'm your co-host, Pamela. And today we have a special guest. His name is Akil Parker. He's going to give us a little details about himself, starting off a little background, what he does for a living. You can go ahead and bust that out.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for inviting me out here so we can have this very important conversation about mathematics and education and how parents can become more involved in their children's education. My name is Akil Parker, as you said. I'm a black man that's trying to play his part in the black community and teach math to our people to overall improve the relationship between mathematics and the black community. So because, math is such an important tool that we often, are kind of convinced from a very early age that is either too difficult or irrelevant. And a lot of us kind of run away from it and stay away from it as a result because we buy into that propaganda, that negative propaganda about it. And I want better for our people. So that's why I do the work that I do through my company, all this math. And all this math, we started in like 2017 after I had been teaching since 2005. I had been a high school math teacher since 2005.
Wow.
And so, I decided to become more official and I started the math tutoring business. And then that grew into like educational consulting work and teacher coaching and developing resources. And I ended up writing a book, which is another resource for parents called How to Use All This Math Volume 1.
Okay. Where
I take everyday activities and just show how parents can use that as a way to, prepare their children for math class, basically, because a lot of children, that's another reason children don't do as well in school in math because they go in cold, right? They're not prepared already. They get, overwhelmed by a lot of new topics and new math vocabulary and this and that. And, we also, produce resources and also we have a YouTube channel too, the All This Math YouTube channel that, I hope everybody, taps into and subscribes to and uses on a regular basis because there's no other YouTube channel like it. There's no other YouTube channel where you're going to find a black man very proficient teaching math, and also you get Black history lessons in the videos too. So in the beginning, I might have like a Malcolm X hoodie on, and then I might talk about Malcolm X a little for the first 60 seconds, and then we start solving equations, or simplifying exponent expressions or something like that, so you get both at the same time, so I'm just trying to help our people win, through math.
Wow, okay. That's good. That
was a mouthful. Almost said amen.
That's a mouthful. That's
excellent.
That was a mouthful.
I see what you did there.
I did it. Okay. So I have a question, Akil. So what made you venture off into all this math? Like, what prompted that? What triggered that? What made you say, you know what, I need to do something besides just teaching this here in the school in this educational setting, but taking the educational setting outside of the four walls? What made you? What was it?
So it was kind of like a natural progression because as a math teacher, and I'm sure all math teachers can attest to this, you end up you have like a natural side hustle as a math tutor anyway, because people always come ask you can you help my child with this? Can you help my child with that? And if you have time, you kind of just do it. But I decided I wanted to become more formal with it.
Okay.
But more to your point, so it was a natural progression, but at the same time, I realized that I wanted to reach more students. And I also learned that, just watching education and how it was changing, like back in 2017 and 2018. And I kind of the things that are happening right now, I seen it coming. I seen things going in this direction, so I was trying to get out in front of it and I wanted to reach more people. So I realized that, with tutoring, I could kind of control my schedule, control my time, still use my skill set and help people. And, and also, I've also, in addition to the tutoring, we also, teach in homeschool collectives.
Okay.
So if there's a group of people that are homeschooling their children, they want to hire a math teacher, so I've done that type of work as well, and worked with some online programs, some online homeschool programs where I've been the math teacher for there as well. But yeah, I really just wanted to expand my reach, right? Because when I left the school district of Philadelphia in 2018, I was teaching at Overbrook at the time, over in West Philly. And, I had like 5 sections, like maybe two sections of algebra 1 and like 3 sections of geometry. And matter of fact, no, like 2 sections of geometry. I think I had like a stat section too with some seniors. But it was like, I don't know, it might have been no more than like 100 students. So I was like affecting 100 students. At least I hoped I was affecting 100 students. But, on the internet now, it's like, you could literally reach millions.
Right.
So I'm like, and it's the same. I got the same skills, that I can teach the same way and the same topics, and I don't got to worry about like, classroom disruptions. When I'm in my house,
Right.
recording my video content, that's the same quality that I would provide when I was in the classroom. I could just flow and just do my thing. And if a student doesn't understand, like in real time, they can't pause me and rewind me, right? But on my YouTube channel, you can pause me and rewind me, like whenever you want to, you know?
That's lit. Yeah.
So again, to answer your question, like I just wanted to expand my reach and just reach more people. And, I felt confined in the classroom and I couldn't really move how I really, wanted to move. So that's kind of why I decided to build all this math out. Cause like when I first started it, I didn't really know what my goals really were for it. I just knew, I'm like, it just started out just as like a little humble little tutoring business. And then it kind of just grew. And one thing led to another. And then I was like, well, I could do this and I could do that and I could do this and I could do that. And then these people need this, these people need that. And then people start reaching out to me. And that's the point I'm at now where like, whereas before I was really, really aggressively reaching out to a lot of people, and I still reach out to people, right? Mm-hmm. But now people are finding out about me and like reaching out to me now. So it's like, it's coming back now, so I'm at that stage. So, yeah.
Do you see now that you're in this sector of it versus being in the actual school district or anything, do you see an increase in parental involvement or kind of the same?
I think it's about the same, which is unfortunate, which is why another reason I do the work that I do, because one of the things I want to do is like, come on platforms like this and like talk to parents about, first of all, remind them that they should be more involved. But not only that, like provide resources and like have different conversations about parental involvement. Because I realized that a lot of the conversations about parental involvement, especially in the Black community, it's kind of like, like a finger overall, like a finger wagging type of thing. Like it can be very condescending. And even me, like if somebody's like telling me like, what I should do, if you don't tell me in a certain way, even if I know I should do it, I might not like how you're talking to me. If I don't like how you're talking to me, then I'm not going to do it. So I try to like have different conversations around parental involvement and have it in a different way, and also provide resources. Because it's easy for me to say to somebody like, because I'm a person, I taught math for 20 years, and I teach math on a college level. And from kindergarten through 12th grade, for the most part, I was really strong in math. I had some rough patches, but I was really strong in math. So it's easy for me to say like, y'all should be doing this, y'all should be doing that. But you got to provide the resources.
Yeah, that part.
So back to the YouTube channel, I'm like, look, I want mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and aunties and everybody to be able to help children with their homework when they get home, whenever they see them. But you need to know how to do the homework first.
That part.
As an adult, you got to know how to do it, because it can't be the blind leading the blind. So that's why I make the video content on the YouTube channel. So you can just say, all right, I'm gonna go to this YouTube channel. I like how this brother talk or whatever. He explains it, makes it make sense. And then I can help you with your homework, And now at this point, we got like over 800 videos ranging from arithmetic up to calculus. And we pushing like 6,000 subscribers.
Wow.
We about to hit 6,000.
What do you think? Why do you think parents have fear with math?
Oh, because when they were children, they had fear with math. That's what I think. For a lot of people, like, and the thing is like, and I want to be very clear about that too. Like, it's a very systemic thing, right? It's very systemic. Like, we're programmed to fear math. We're programmed to hate math. We're programmed to try to stay away from math. And I believe that is 2 main reasons why that is. Number one, if the moment that you say as a person, even as a child, math is too hard, math is too difficult, math is irrelevant, you've also said, without realizing it, that I'm not going into a STEM field. I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be an engineer. I'm not going to be a computer scientist, because math is the gatekeeper for all of those professions. So as soon as you can, so if enough, and you got to also think about how America is structured. It's a capitalist system.
Right.
It's a dog eat dog world. Everybody can't win. In this system, everybody can't win. I know we a lot of times we act like everybody can win, but that's unrealistic. In this current system, everybody can't win. There's got to be a lot of losers and a few people winning at the top. That's how the system is set up, right? So in order for those that want to continue to win, they want to have less competition. And they want to have a competitive advantage. So for the people that have, certain amounts of resources and whatnot, if they say like, you know what, well, I want my child to be an anesthesiologist when they grow up. Okay. There's a certain amount of opportunities, a certain amount of anesthesiologists that will be able to work in the United States. So then, but if you have like literally millions of black children that are like, you know what, math is too hard, but math is the gatekeeper. Those are millions of children that those people that have plans for their children to be anesthesiologists do not have to compete with.
Right.
Right.
They like math is too hard. So like, no, I don't got to worry about y'all. So every time your child says like math is too hard, why I got to do this? What's the point? When am I ever going to use this in life? You're actually disqualifying yourself from competition. And a lot of parents actually, because a lot of parents had their own negative experiences with schooling and with math classes, they feel like they're protecting their child from the hurt that they experience, because they feel triggered, I think, sometimes. So a lot of parents kind of pass on this math anxiety to their children. And a lot of parents don't really recognize when they do that, because like when your child comes home with the homework and then they say, well, Mom, can you help me with this? Dad, can you help me with this? Like, and then you kind of like don't act very like aggressive or assertive or like confident. They notice that. They read your body language. They read everything. They read what you're communicating to them. So then it kind of makes them feel like, well, damn, like my mom don't do this. My dad don't do this. Why should I be doing this? Right?
I want to backtrack something. When you said that the system is set up, the parents, the reason why parents have fear because that's something that they had in childhood. Can you explain that a little bit more of how the system is set up for us not to like math? And I'm thinking that if I'm thinking what you're thinking even if we go back to like slavery and all that in regards to math, can you elaborate on how you feel the system is set up for us not to like math?
Well, like I said, this is monopoly capitalism. That's the economic system we exist within. That's the political system. That's the social system. So, it's about scarcity. And it's like artificial scarcity, right? Because it's really enough for everybody to have plenty. But you got people that have access to resources and hoard the resources to make it seem like it's not enough for everybody. It's plenty, right? But they control the resources. So it's like there's this myth and this idea and this image that it's not enough for everybody. Even back in, like you mentioned, like during chattel slavery, right? Oftentimes, we learn about Frederick Douglass and reading and how it was illegal to teach an enslaved African to read and everything. But I'm certain that we weren't allowed to be able to do mathematics either. Right? Because math is just as important. Because math is a language in and of itself. Right? When you think about fast forward after the Civil War, when sharecropping becomes a thing, which is just another iteration of chattel slavery, right? A lot of our ancestors are getting taken advantage of because the landowner is like, well, no, you owe me this much. You really owe me that much. So then it's like you're perpetually in bondage, year after year after year. But if that black man, that black woman don't understand those formulas that man is presenting to them, then they have no choice but to just say, oh, okay.
And it could be changing every time.
Exactly. Right? So you keep people illiterate, not only illiterate of the English language, but illiterate to the language of mathematics.
Right.
Like even when you talk about, I could veer off a little bit and even talk about how, rappers or athletes that, well, let's say rappers, because people always talk about how the rappers sign deals and they didn't know what they were signing. They didn't read the contract. It's not really it's a reading issue, but it's a mathematical issue because all a contract is a long math word problem.
Right.
Any contract you sign. If there's money involved, there's an equation, there's some formula, there's percentages. If you don't understand the language of mathematics, you're going to get taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is all systemic, and that's why, so when people say things like, school should teach this and school should teach that, it kind of says to me that they don't really understand like where they are. Like they don't understand that like, you know, what America really is. Because it's like something Asada Shakur said, like, and I'm like paraphrasing what she said, but like, you know, your oppressor is never going to give you the tools to become free or to remove them from power. Right. So if you know, all these positive things like, you know, providing like, you know, not just financial literacy to children, but economic literacy.
Right.
Because a lot of the financial literacy that our children need are like defense mechanisms so they can protect themselves from being taken advantage of in this economic system. But if we got to do all this to protect ourselves and be on the defensive all the time, somebody should stand up and say, well, wait a minute, what's up with this system? Right. Why do we live in a system where I constantly got to protect myself from being taken advantage of by a store owner or a car dealer or somebody trying to rent me a house or rent an apartment? Like, why is this system set up like that? Maybe we need to have a larger conversation about moving into a different system, right? But of course, they don't want that neither, right?
Yeah.
But if you start asking, because then you're asking too many questions, right? Then you become a problem, right? But it goes back to having mathematical understanding, because with the mathematical understanding, this is my other point, and beyond not being able to compete for STEM jobs and STEM careers, there's the issue of problem solving and critical thinking. The thing a lot of young people don't understand, and even like a lot of teachers I think don't understand, or some teachers understand it but don't verbalize it explicitly to students, which is that, you know, one of the things you're doing when you're doing a math problem or any math problem is you're developing your critical thinking ability. You're developing your problem solving ability. And like, cause kids would be like, man, I ain't never gonna be in a grocery store and have to use the Pythagorean theorem or quadratic formula. That's what they say, right? But they don't, because they looking only at the surface level, right? Deeper within that, when you sitting in a classroom in the 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever, and you using the quadratic formula, you're using Pythagorean theorem to figure something out, to solve a problem. You're training your brain how to solve problems.
Exactly.
And that could be transferred to any situation. You're gonna be it's in a situation with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, your supervisor at your job, somebody in traffic, somebody trying to get over on you, right? Whatever. Like, you need to know problem solving. Problem solving is problem solving. If you could do it in an algebra 2 class or geometry class, you could do it in your personal life. And a lot of people, we notice they have problems because they don't know how to solve problems.
Right.
So what happens when you can't solve a problem? It persists. It persists and then it grows. It's like a toothache. You got a toothache, you don't do nothing about it. Your tooth gonna get worse. Then it's gonna start rotting. Then you have to get it pulled out. Then you get an infection. Then you might have nerve damage. It just get worse and worse and worse. But because we never learn how to solve problems. So the math class is the class where you really get to learn how to solve problems. But I don't think nobody is really saying that to children. Nobody's saying that. Nobody thinking about it like that, because we get so caught up in the X's and the Y's and the Z's and everything. So and the thing is, again, it's about competition. So a lot of people just sit back and be like, all right, all y'all sitting up here talking about this is useless. Cool. All right, y'all not gonna be able to compete with us.
That's the more we get to count out.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that, because I had this conversation with my son. He's 16. And he was saying, you know, he doesn't really like, he can do math really well. He just doesn't like it. And he was like, I don't understand why I'm not going to use this when I'm adult. I was like, you're 16. You don't even know what you're going to use when you're adult. Right?
Right. That too.
like I try to tell him, like, bro, like, you're only 16. You got a long life to live. And I explained to him, I said, listen, because I'm a nurse by trade. So I'm like, we use algebra. We use all this stuff that you said that you don't think that you need when he was like, yeah, but I'm not going to be a nurse or doctor. I said, but even just when you talk about critical thinking and problem solving, and that's what I said to him. I said, even everyday life, when you think about problem solving, you got to be able to move something in this place to that, and bring it all together. You got to be able to think about it. And he was like, yeah, but like, why can't they just say 5 + 5? I'm like, because that's the easiest way. That's the simplest way. But don't you want to know more? Why does this equal this? Because growing up, you know, well, Pam, you're not my age, but I don't know how about you, Akil, but growing up, we the same age then. Right. So growing up in school, they never taught us why certain things, why were they. They just like 5 + 5 = 5. And they always make it seem like it's only one way that it equals that, right? They didn't show you the different ways. And if you thought outside of the box, they told you your paper was wrong. Like, you get dinged for not doing it the way they wanted you to do it. At least what I recall in school, if I did a math problem a different way, but I got the right answer, they told me it was still wrong because I didn't do it the way that they said it needs to be done. And I used to think that that's crazy. Like, if it's still equaling the same thing, it's multiple ways to skin a cat. Like, but even growing up, they weren't accepting all those different ways. So they never really explained to us math, really. They just say, this is it, and this is what we said. Now we have this generation where math is getting explained in all different types of ways. And I think that's why parents are scared and nervous and have so much fears, because as a child, we didn't get that unless you searched and did something different.
Yeah.
The school system was not giving you that. And then a lot of our parents were illiterate, like just the way that they grew up. Like a lot of our parents didn't, my mom didn't graduate from high school. I remember teaching my mom how to even read the Daily Times. Now, I'm reading the Inquirer, but I'm teaching her how to read the Daily Times. So just certain things like that, and it becomes so fearful, and I don't even know how to help my child because I don't know how to do this for myself. So I see where parental fears come in when it relates to math, because we weren't taught that.
Yeah.
Unless you went to college, right? Unless you went to college. And I've learned so much in college than I did the whole 12 years of going to school.
Wow.
And I thought that was really crazy, because even in college, they're explaining to you why this is. And I'm like, this is what I used to try to do when I was younger, and I was told I was wrong. So then when I went to college and started doing math in college, I tried to do it the old way. And they're like, no, there's another way. I'm like, no, that's wrong. I'm telling the professor, he like, what you talking about? That's not what they said when I'm arguing with them. But in reality, it's like, I knew it was something different, but because the way that the education system was structured, it shut me down of thinking outside of their box.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of people.
Yeah. I definitely think, like, people need more options. Like the quote unquote new math or the Common Core math, it provides different options for like how to solve problems, and in exercising different options, it helps you to gain a better overall understanding of math generally, because you start to see the connections. Like, it's no better feeling than like being, well, there are some better feelings, but it's a very good feeling when you can solve a problem one way, get one answer, solve a problem another way, get the same answer, solve a problem another way, get the same answer.
I would agree.
And then you see the consistency. That's when you start to get into the beauty of math. That's when you start to like really like math, really love it. A lot of people are good at math and don't really love it. That's another issue too, because for some people it's just like it's like a necessary evil. It's just like a class you want to take. You got to take it. So it's like, this math class. All right, I'm good at this, but I don't really, because those are people that might not go into STEM fields either. And also I want to say this too, because I didn't say this earlier. I don't think it's mandatory for our children to go into STEM, but I think it's mandatory for it to be an option.
Right.
Because for so many of us, it's not even an option. For so many of our children, so many people go to, I had peers when I went to college, like they went to college not knowing what they wanted to major in. So how'd they pick a major? They said, give me the major where I got to take either no math or the least amount of math classes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm a major in, right? Wow. So many people do that. Like, and these people might have been excellent physicians, might have been excellent registered nurses, excellent computer scientists, architects, computer engineers, all those fields and those that have majors where you got to go up to calculus 3 or like differential equations or something like that. But because of their feelings about math and their experiences with math, they disqualify themselves from it. Right. And like I said, I don't think it's accidental. And one thing that compounds the problem is these smartphones, because now what children can also say, and adults say the same thing, is, why I got to know it? I could just ask Siri. I could ask Alexa when I'm in my house, or I could just Google it. Like, bro, the thing is, the computer is supposed to be a tool that's controlled by the human being.
Right. Say that again.
The computer is supposed to be a tool that's controlled by the human being. We're putting ourselves willingly and happily putting ourselves in a position to be controlled by the computer. Right? The computers are taking over our lives. We're supposed to control the computer, right? People say, oh, well, you could chat GPT that, or you could go on, one of these apps where you could just take a picture of the problem and it'll like photo math or something like that. And it'll like give you step by step, but you're not learning it.
Right.
You're not learning how to do it. Right. And you're putting yourself at the mercy of technology. Right. And I think that we should want to know how to do stuff, right?
Exactly.
You should just want to know how to do stuff, right? You shouldn't be happy.
Almost like a dead brain.
Yeah, we shouldn't be happy to be dumb. Like, we're dumbing ourselves down.
Like,
literally.
You know what? Wait, remember that thing just happened with the airlines, right? And the whole system like was down, like there was no flights or anything like that. And I was like, I wonder if it's just because we depended on technology so much, and once the technology shut down, the human brain didn't know what to do. Like, there's so smart people that, first of all, human brains built the computers, so you don't think that you're smarter than a computer, which is very, to me, this don't make sense to me.
Wow.
But I was saying to myself, I said, I bet you if somebody just knew what the computer knew or activated what the computer knew, like we wouldn't have had that whole billions of dollars, all these airplanes landed. Like I was like, somebody's just not using their brain effectively.
Right.
And that's exactly what I said, because I was like, ain't no way that the world could be shut down from computers. This doesn't make any sense to me. I remember, this is crazy because I'm going to let you touch on that, but I remember probably about 10 years ago, I was taking my kids to Pennsylvania up in the mountains, and I took them to Crystal Caves, right? The gyms and things like that. And we had the phone, and the GPS was on the phone, but I also printed out
MapQuest.
Printed out MapQuest.
Oh
like,
my God!
I want to play it, right?
Okay.
I, like seriously printed out MapQuest, but here lies the problem. I left my papers home. No, seriously, because I knew, I was like, technology. 10 years ago, I'm like, technology a little iffy. You out in the mountains, you might not get signals and things like that. And something told me I printed out the whole thing, but I left it home. So let me tell you, I'm out there in the mountains. GPS signal's going. I have no way. I'm going around in a circle. I see all these horses and I see all these cows, and I literally like 5 hours lost up there because I did not know how to get. And you didn't see people. Like you're out there in the farmland. So what I did was I was able to call my sister, and I had my sister pull it up. And I had to literally tell her exactly where I was, and she actually navigated me through that whole how to get back to a highway.
Wow.
Like it was the craziest thing. And I said, the way that we depend on technology is utterly ridiculous. But I knew I needed that MapQuest, but I left it home. So, I don't do that no more. Let me tell you, I don't leave that at home. Like, I'm printing stuff out.
Do it still exist?
Like, seriously.
That's a good question. She said, does MapQuest still exist? That's a good question.
It does. Also, Wade, you can print out your whole, Google, you can print all that out. Print out your directions.
Another thing I want to add too about that is that, and people often talk about like, these kids these days and these kids are different. And I think kids fundamentally they're not different from our generation, like when we were children, right? But
don't you start.
I don't want you to feel left out. I want you to feel left out. It's okay. But like a lot of stuff, we didn't have the technology, so we had to think things through and figure stuff out.
Yeah.
What that does is like, because everything is there's an opportunity cost for everything, right? So when there's more technology, there's more luxury, right? You're still losing something. You gain something, but you're losing something.
Right.
Just like a person that, like, let's say, they had to travel to work and they had to walk a mile to the bus stop or the train station and then take the train or take the bus, and then coming home from work they had to do the same thing. So they get an exercise every day, 5 days a week. Then they get a car. All of a sudden, they're not getting exercise no more.
Right.
The car is more convenient, it's warmer, more comfortable. They don't got to sit on the bus, with other people. They can have their alone time, listen to their music, driving to work and from. That's a gain, but there's also a loss. Right. So the question is, how do you make up for that loss? So hopefully, then that person, now you got to get a gym membership. Now you got to take walks on the weekend, or take walks in the evening if you can, or early in the morning before you go to work. Right? Same thing with the children.
Back to that problem solving.
That's a problem solving going on right now.
So with the children, like, even like things like, I remember being young and like, I might not have had a digital clock in my house. Might have only had analog clocks. So every time I'm trying to tell what time it is, I'm practicing my five multiplication facts.
Right.
Because if the long hand is pointing to the 6, I want to know how many minutes it is. I got to do 6 times 5.
Right.
Get 30. If the long hand is pointing to the 9, I'm doing 9 times 5, 45 minutes, right? So just little things like that that add up that children today don't have to do.
Right.
So as parents, this is what I definitely want to implore and encourage parents to do. Start thinking about ways that we use math when we were young, right? That our children don't have to use math today, and figure out ways to replace that practice. Because the children aren't getting practice.
Say that again, Akil?
Yeah. So I want parents to think about ways that in our generation, when we were children, we had to use math to figure things out, to do things we wanted to do, right? Like maybe I know if I could be outside until this time, and then but we going over here. I got to make sure I get home in time because I don't want to beaten or whatever, right? I got to be home by curfew. we had to do math to figure that out, right?
Right.
So, but our children may not have to do that because of the technology they have access to. They got iPhones now. So the iPhone does all the thinking for them. So we have to think about how can we replace the opportunity, because it is an opportunity. That's an important word. Being able to practice thinking and problem solving, that's an opportunity that everybody don't have, right?
Yeah.
We want to create those opportunities for our children. How do we create opportunities for our children to think critically and problem solve and use mathematics that we had, because we had to do it, right? Because we didn't have a choice, right? But now they have a choice now, right? So how can we create opportunities for them to be able to think and develop that skill set? Because they don't have a skill, because they don't have opportunities. It's kind of like, sometimes I'll be thinking about like,
Wow.
I'd be mad at my son, not mad at him, but I'd be like feeling some type of way about like my son, because he don't have like, as much of a go hard attitude as I had when I was his age, when I was younger. But then I realized like, bro, like, but you spoiled him. You did that. He didn't spoil himself.
Right.
Me and his mom spoiled him.
Yeah.
That's not his fault, right? So, but I'm like, damn, so how do I, right, create opportunities for him to develop that tenacity and that perseverance and that like, when my back is up against the wall, I got to make it happen or it ain't going to happen, that type of attitude. But he's never been in that situation because I've never allowed him to be in that situation. Right. His mom has never allowed him to be in that situation. And we did that intentionally. So it's like, that's a constant challenge too. Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah,
because we want the outcome,
yeah,
but we don't want them to have to go through the hardship that brought us to that outcome and helped us to develop that skill set. Right. So it's like we all of us, like, like I'm saying, like I'm giving out all this advice, but this is something I'm dealing with. So I'm like, I'm in the boat with everybody. Like we all in this boat, this parenting boat together. Right. We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that is so true, because I find myself often like, trying to navigate and learn like how to not give too much but not get enough too. It's like a line, and I see, like, I've been parenting for 25 years and I see some areas where I've given too much and I see some areas where I haven't given enough. Like I evaluate my parenting. So with the 16-year-olds, I'm trying to do things a little bit different, like stand on business for some stuff too, right? But to your point, I was thinking about this the other day. My daughter had to sign something, right? And she's printing. I was so mad. Like, why are you printing and it's signed? But they never was taught cursive writing. Like, that was taken away.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I fought myself for this because I knew that they weren't getting taught that in school, and I didn't teach them at home how to cursive. Like, I felt like that was a disservice. I should have, once I recognized the school was no longer teaching cursive writing to my children, I should have known, something in me should have been like, you know what, teach them how to cursive write, because they do need this in the future. And now that they're 16, and my 18-year-old, the one that's in the Marines, when she turned 16, when I noticed it with her, I started teaching her how to cursive write at 16 years old. And you would think a light bulb would have came on for me to teach the 14-year-olds at that time, since I'm like the 16-year-old, I'm like one kid at a time. But now to see the 16-year-olds, they are just printing. And I really kind of got upset, like, why are you not cursing? But I'm like, but if you wasn't taught something, how do you do something if you wasn't taught?
And
just that
digital
simple
print.
thing of, like, because you need to learn how to write cursive. Like, you need to be able to sign something.
Yeah.
Like, everything is just not going to be print. So I think even in that instance, like, the things that were taken away, and parents knew that they were taken away, but we wasn't maybe alert enough or woke, as the young people say, woke enough to realize what was going on and the things that we need to kind of step in. Like when you said the opportunity to replace even the analog clocks, like when you think about it, like, that's something deep.
I don't even have any in my house. When you said that, I was like, pause. I don't have
none. I want to play today.
Yes. I'm like, I gotta go buy one.
Yeah.
Just because I remember being a kid and my great aunt was sick, and she was, we went to visit her in the hospital, and she was like, what time is it? Right? Mm-hmm. And I kept like trying, mind you, I'm the one sitting on the bed with her, we talking, I know her, she's just like, what time is it? I'm like, she's like, what time is it? What time is it? And I'm like, I don't know what time is. She like, it's a clock right there. I'm like, well, if you ask me, you should be able to see it. She said, Timmy, she called my dad, Timmy, this baby don't know how to tell time. She don't know how to tell. Oh, and let me tell you, she laid into my dad. She said, that is your fault. Yeah. It's not the school. It's not nobody else. You should be making sure of that.
But I think things happen so fast and it slipped past us so fast that we just, I don't know.
And he said, you don't know how to tell that kind. And mind you, we're at the VA, so they got the military time. So it's even extra numbers on there.
Okay.
So I'm really panicking, right? And now I done start crying because I feel like I got my dad in trouble. And he like, you don't know? I'm like, no. He like, I didn't even know you didn't know. So sometimes we don't even know the choices and things that our kids don't even have.
Right. And that's why that parental involvement is so important, because just having a conversation with them. Yeah. And it's crazy that you said that, because I'm a nurse. I taught my kids military time, right?
Wow.
But I didn't take the analog.
I got a chapter in my book about military time. Yeah. Just converting from standard time to military time. Yeah. But I want to add on to something you were saying, like, you know, about how you took it upon yourself to realize that your children need to learn cursive. Like, that's something that as parents, especially with and see, here's the thing, you know, how people say there's a silver lining to a cloud. Like with this new, I guess, Republican regime that was just elected and is coming in, it's going to force us to be more self-reliant. It's going to force us to be more independent in terms of our moving. We tend to be more comfortable under Democratic leadership, because the Democratic Party kind of makes us feel all good inside. Like, you know, don't even worry about it. Y'all chill out. We got this. We're going to take care of it. But the Republicans that straight tell you, like, nah, y'all ain't getting nothing. We're taking all these programs. We taking this. We taking that. If you starve, we don't care. You on your own. So our back is against the wall. So we got to figure it out, because we got to survive, right? So we go into survival mode now. But parents, we have to reorient ourselves to become the primary educators.
Yes.
The school, if you send your child to a public or charter school, or even a private school, the school has to be secondary. That at least has to be the goal. Now, what that looks like may vary from household to household, from community to community. But that has to be at least the goal for you as a parent, mother, father, uncle, aunt, you know, grandparent, godparent. You want to be the primary educator of that child, right? Now, but see, this is the hard part. Once you decide that, now it's like, oh, well, if I'm the primary educator, that means I got to know some stuff.
Right.
I can't just make sure they get up early, they get breakfast maybe, they, you know, got a clean uniform, clean iron uniform, whatever, and they get to school on time. I got to do more than that. Yeah. You're gonna have to do more than that. And again, like, and I don't want with this part of the conversation, I don't want to like blame black parents too much, because that's what we've all been conditioned to do. We've been conditioned to just, you know, outsource, give the responsibility to the schools, right? And the government wants us to do that. The schools want us to do that. They want us to do that, right? So, you know, the parental involvement conversation is a precarious conversation, because on one hand, it's like, yes, there should be parental involvement, right? But it's complicated, because if there was the level of parental involvement that a lot of the schools and a lot of the administrators and a lot of the teachers claim that they want, a lot of these administrators and teachers would be upset, because then they'd have to really work a lot harder. Because if you got all these hundreds and thousands of black parents on your back, like, listen, why you ain't update your grade book? I want to know what my child's grades is.
Right.
She said, like, you ain't updated, like the last grade that's in it was from like 2 months ago. What's going on? Right. So now you got to actually be conscientious. Right. As a teacher and as an administrator now, because you said you wanted parental involvement. So this is what it looks like now. So now it's like, oh, you talked to my child a certain way. You disrespected my child. So now I'm at the school. Now we got to talk. Now we got to have a conversation. Now you don't want that. So it's like, okay, it's cool. It's like, oh, well, you know, because a lot of times what people that work in schools will do, administrators and a lot of teachers will complain, oh, look, it was report card conferences. Don't nobody show up. It was back to school night. Don't nobody show up. Right. They'll say that. But in reality, a lot of those people, they don't want people to show up. They just want them to show up when they want them to show up, right? But you don't want them to show up if they're gonna hold you accountable. If they're gonna hold you accountable as a professional, right? And I understand, like, you know, there are a lot of responsibilities that teachers have. I know, I'm a teacher. I get it, right? But if we put children first and the needs of the children first, then, you know, a lot of us have to be honest about the fact that we're not always doing the most that we can. Right. Even in my own career, I didn't always do the most that I could at all times. So that's, you know, we all have to be self-reflective as educators. But, you know, parental involvement is key. But for the parents, we have to first decide that we're going to be the primary educators. Right. And then we can figure out what it looks like, but as time progresses, right, on a daily basis. But we first got to make that decision. Because for so long, we've accepted that the school is going to be the primary educator. And that ties into what I said earlier about math anxiety and math phobias and fears of math, because a lot of parents, they were children that weren't properly educated in math.
Right.
So they became adults that wouldn't still had that experience, weren't properly educated in math. So then it's like time for, they don't really do as much to develop math skills in the household. So the kids just get sent to school not knowing much math. They might know how to count, but they don't, why not? Why don't they already, you can teach your children the multiplication facts in the house.
Yeah.
You can teach them how to multiply, divide. You don't got to wait for the teachers. And a lot of these teachers are not more qualified than you are. They have a college degree, but that doesn't mean they're more qualified than you are to teach your children. And they're your children. That's another thing. Like, you have the rapport with your children. You love your children. Your children trust you.
Right.
The home environment oftentimes is more safe. It's more conducive to learning because it's relaxed. Like, we're chilling. This is my safe space. School is not a safe space a lot of times. In school, it's war.
It's war.
Right? It's war. So you go to school, you gotta be prepared. You gotta already be on point. And like, learning is a very vulnerable activity. So I think back to H. Rap Brown, Jamil Alameen, political activist from the 1960s. He said, in terms of talking about just America in general, any institution that we don't control can be used as a weapon against us. We don't control the schools. We don't control the public schools, the charter schools, the private schools. True. We don't control them. So they're used as a weapon against us. So the school is often not a safe space, right? And learning is a very vulnerable activity, right? In order for me to learn from you, I got to trust you. I got to be able to let my guard down. If I'm not, I'm probably not going to learn from you, right? Now, I could practice if I need to sit in your room and there's something I already know how to do, and we could practice some problems. That's cool, but that's not really learning. That's me practicing. I might have a couple of questions here and there, but if I think you don't like me, I think you're a racist white teacher, or I think you're a black teacher that maybe has middle class values, and you don't like poor black kids, and I'm poor and I'm from the hood, and you don't respect me and my humanity, I'm not going to feel comfortable trying to learn from you. Right? So that's why what has to happen, you got to learn it in the house, and then the school has to be a space for practice. So math class has to be like recess, in the sense that the young boys will come to school and love recess because they get to show off their skills from what they learned on their block, in their neighborhood, at their rec around their way.
Wow. Think about hopscotch and stuff like that they don't do anymore.
So they get to practice what they already know. They don't learn that in school, right? Yeah. They're practicing. They're practicing what they learned in their community. So my ambitious goal is for us as a community, as black people, to be able to teach our children, whether in the household or on the block, in the community, wherever, teach them out of algebra, the geometry, the trigonometry, the pre-calculus, the calculus. So when they go to school, it's like, all right, we'll go to school, but we're just going to school to practice. So the school is not even as relevant. Like, it's there, it's an institution, but it's like, nah, well, we're here for practice. Right. Just like recess. Like, the young boys go to school and show off. I'm like, listen, I know how to play basketball. I can't wait to recess. I'm gonna cook y'all. Right? I just want to show off. I want to show off, but I didn't learn how to play basketball in school.
Right.
I learned around my way.
To the school. So
the math should be the same way. The math needs to be the same way. Like, that's got to be the goal for all of us. Like, math has to be taught at home. But we got to figure out ways to educate the parents so that they can teach it, right? And we got to have resources like the All This Math YouTube channel.
Yes.
Like the volume 1 of my How to Use All This Math book series. All those. So there's the plug. There's the plug for those. But yeah, I think this has to happen. Like, it's no way around it. Yeah. There's no way around it, because what we've been doing has not been working. Because you hear every year, and it's not just in Philly, not just in Chester, it's all over the country, right? You hear the reports. 99% of the schools have 0 students that score proficient on the math standardized test. Like, every year, it's the same thing. It's not working, right? Well, it's not working for us. That's another thing I want to talk about. The system is not broken. I want us to be very clear. Okay. If it was broken, it would have been fixed. The fact that this happens every year and on a consistent basis means that this is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. Because whenever there's a problem, we have to always look at who's benefiting from the problem. Because for every problem that either one of us 3 here, have, somebody's benefiting from that problem.
Right.
So we always got to look at who's benefiting. Because what happens is, oftentimes there'll be a problem that's popular, right? And the media, right, will only focus on the problem. They'll never focus on who's benefiting from the problem.
Right, absolutely.
And then sometimes it'll be somebody that's benefiting, some company, corporation, entity, whatever, that's benefiting from the problem. They'll slide up next to the victim, the person that's suffering, and try to make it seem like we cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Might be some corporation like, you know what? We see what's going on in your community. There's so much gun violence and all this and that. We're going to donate $250,000 and start this after school program. We're going to write you $1,000 or whatever they do, right? In the meantime, on the other end, you benefited from the environment that leads to and facilitates and maintains the gun violence. You benefited to the tune of like maybe $1 billion a year. So that $250K ain't nothing. That's a drop in the, that's a tax write-off anyway, right? But again, critical thinking. So like tell your son, like, see, stuff like that. Like to be able to sit back and just peep the scene like, okay, I see what's going on. But again, sitting in class, doing the math problems, making sure like, okay, left side equals the right side. If I do this, this is gonna happen, you know, all that. So when you're doing math, it trains your brain to think critically. So you start to see stuff that everybody else don't see. Like you ever be like just somewhere and like, it could be you and like 50 other people, and it's like something crazy is going on. And you see it, because your thinking is on that level, but everybody else is chilling.
Yeah, like they're comfortable with it, like it's norm. Like this
y'all don't see what's going on right here? Or like somebody will say something disrespectful, but you catch on to it, and it's not because you're being hypersensitive. It's because you're intelligent enough to realize they're trying to play in our face, right? You catch on to it, but everybody else don't catch on to it. You're the only one that catch on to it. You know he trying to be smart, or she trying to be smart. You're the only one to catch on to it because their thinking, their critical thinking level is not up to par. So they don't get it. They don't even get it. So that's why, you know, when I advocate for people to lock in and tap into math, it's like math trains you how to like think critically so you can understand what's going on. So you can understand the world around you.
You know, as you were talking earlier in that part, because you said a lot, all this math. You know what I thought about, and it's something that we kind of flexed on, but it's not really a flex. Like growing up, like you ever, or even when you see shows with like grandmoms and things like that on there, and they never really measured the food, right? They always was like, oh, you just put a little bit here, a little bit there, and then when you question them, this baby, just do this, do that, and we used to be like, well, my grandma ain't never had to measure nothing, so I ain't got to measure nothing. Like that is really a transgenerational thing. Like we're literally passed down to our children. It's like, listen, it just need to look enough or whatever. Even when you go to like macaroni and cheese, when you ask an older person, what are the ingredients to make a cake, a macaroni?
They'll tell you, but they won't tell you the portion that they take.
They don't, a heap of this or a spoon, like they don't even measure it.
Yeah.
And I think that was passed down for so long, and we kind of use it as a flex style. My grandma ain't never had to use no measuring this or measuring that. They knew it, but then that went into the next generation, and made it say we don't even need math like that because all we gotta do is look at some stuff.
Yeah.
I think my Nana, rest in peace to my Nana. She just passed away like last month, right? She was like that too, like with her cooking and everything. 'Cause I remember like my sister telling this story. Like my sister was trying to make a sweet potato pie for the first time. One of my little sisters. And she called Nana and was like, Nana, how much do I put in? Like, you know, she was like, I don't know, enough. So put enough in there. I'm like, so like, you know what I'm saying? So like, but that is a quantity though. I think even when somebody like, they like what do you call it? They eyeball it when they got eyeball it.
Yeah.
They still like they're still quantifying it, right? Even though the quantity might not be okay exactly, like, you know, half a cup of this, you know, put the flour in the measuring cup or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like they might not do it like that, but it's like the quantity, they just know the quantity. And then when you get to the point where you did it so much, you can eyeball it, right? But they're still, so I would actually say they're still using math because they're still quantifying it. It's just not the type of quantity, because you know how people say like in the black community, we got our own like types of measurements.
Right.
Like you said a heap. Like you said a heap. Like how much is a heap? How many ounces a heap? Or like you say like, yo, I'm gonna be there in a minute. How long is that?
Like
how
we got
long is
our
that?
own math.
Yeah, around the corner. How far is around the corner? You gotta know. You gotta just know. And around the corner, in somebody's neighborhood might be a different amount of number of feet or miles in somebody else's neighborhood, or depending on who the person is, or the time of day, or what's going on.
It's too complicated.
So it is. It's all of this is mathematical.
Right.
All of it is mathematical.
I get that part. I definitely get that part, but it's also hard to pass it down when you don't have the true measurements.
Right.
Yeah.
When you have,
You
you
can't
know,
leave it
kids are
behind.
saying like, you don't. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Like I'm using the measure thing for everything. When I was teaching my kids, I use that as math, teaching them cooking. They all cook with me, so we all had every measurement out, so you know exactly what this means, what that means. But I think like when I was thinking back, when I asked somebody, like even when they write stuff written down, the instructions and ingredients for something, it's not really, I guess, American or measurement as we see it. It's probably just black measurement. Or but you're saying that even that can be utilized as identify a quantity by looking. Okay,
that's definitely a quantity. It's an amount because you know, like because it's an identifiable amount of something, right? Even if it's not like a recognized like a cup or a milliliter or something like that. It could be, you know, and that's another thing too, like, you know, because we can and we're allowed to have our own forms of measurement. We can do that, you know, because I mean, at the end of the day, we were the first humans on Earth anyway, you know. So even though, because a lot of our formal education is based on systems that are used by, you know, Europeans, you know, developed by Europeans, and it's good to know that. Or just like the English language. It's good to know the English language. It's good to have a strong command of the English language. But if you want to get technical from a linguistic standpoint, English is a trash can language. It's garbage, right? It's a hodgepodge of a whole bunch of different languages all put together. The rules don't really make no sense. Because why do you spell this word this way and pronounce it that way, but you spell another word almost the same way with one different letter, but you pronounce it a whole different way? That's garbage. It's garbage. But it's an important tool that we should master, right? We should master it
because that's
it's
the
an important
system
tool,
that we're in,
right? But it's not even our language. Like a lot, and actually, you know, a lot of people use our ability to the ability of Black people to utilize standard English as a marker for intelligence, and we shouldn't do that because any language could be a marker for intelligence. Slang in the hood is a marker for intelligence because there's a science to that. You have to know what somebody's talking about. Like, just if somebody's like, think about all the variations of "you good," right? Yeah. The intonation, the inflection of the voice. That's cognitive. You have to have cognitive ability to know and that's a safety issue because if you somewhere where you don't belong or you somewhere where you don't usually be at, and somebody say "you good," you gotta know, you gotta catch on to like their tone.
Yeah,
like are they asking about my well-being, or are they actually indicating that they about to do something to me and try to rob me or something? Right.
Oh my
Intelligence
God.
is involved in that, right? That's an intelligent thing. So, you know, like so even that. So like so I don't want our people to, you know, get mad at people or try to, you know, condescend to people if they don't use the right form of the word there, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, because at the end of the day, like, English is a trash can language. And it's a form of resistance. Like that's one of the things Kwame Ture, one of my intellectual revolutionary heroes, said back in 1968. He said, you know, not speaking standard English is actually a form of resistance. Because like if you want to learn English, you can learn English. It's not that hard. But when you think about the history, like, okay, I take you from your land, I take your people, right? Transport you to another place. I do my best to strip you of your culture,
right?
Your religion, your spiritual systems, your family traditions. I try to strip you of everything. And I take your language and I tell you got to speak this language. I'm like, that ain't my language. All right, maybe I need to use this language, but I'm not going to use it the way you want me to use it. So it's a form of resistance. Like you said, when he said that, I remember it blew my mind. I was like, damn, like, yeah, it's a form of resistance. I think a lot of our people don't know that, though. And then we have kind of bought into this whole thing of like, well, if you talk like that, you just unintelligent. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But and I also don't know that everybody understands that it's a form of resistance, right? I think, but somewhere back in the day, we understood it was a form of resistance. Just like a lot of things get passed on intergenerationally and we just do them. We don't know the root reason behind it. But yeah, like even like speaking slang and or different types of vernacular, you know, it's a form of resistance. It's just letting an oppressor know, like, okay, you're trying to force me to use this language, but I might use it, but I'm not gonna use it like exactly the way you want me to use it.
Right.
And that's why there's so many variations, you know, to the way we speak English, you know, all across the world, really.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. Like you get somebody come over and they're like, "This ain't even English." You know, they come to America, but like, what United States? This ain't even English. What they teaching y'all?
And it's a function of power. That's another thing too. Like, so think about it. Like, so those that are in power, they have decided and decided a long time ago that this is going to be the language that is spoken. This is going to be the standard language. But if people from the block around the way in Chester were in power, then they would be able to say, this is the standard English.
Right.
There's no
fixed
fixed standard. Standardization is a function of power. Whoever's in power, they determine what the standard is.
Right.
Like what's right and what's wrong. What's seen as acceptable, what's unacceptable, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times when we get educated, we think, oh, standard English. It's all about standard English. And again, it's a tool, but it's just that. It's a tool.
So it's a tool.
Just like any language. Like math. Math is a language. Math is a tool. Math is a language we definitely should learn. Math is not a trash language, though.
It's not trash. Oh, we're not going to say math is trash.
No.
Y'all hear that? Math is not trash.
No. Math is not a trash language. Math is very useful, very beneficial. Math can help us to solve problems. Math can help us to figure things out and forecast and plan for the future, the short-term future, the long-term future, the intermediate future. Math can do all those things for us.
I think that's very good. You just brought, you really brought a good point of how, I like how you just brought critical thinking pretty much in every area of life and how math is necessary in every area of your life. And it helps you critical think and problem solve for everything. And I think that so long, we haven't looked at math that way.
No.
Yeah, even me growing up, I never looked at it like that. Not until I really got into it, really started my company and started doing more tutoring and doing more reading and the context of studying scholars like Amos Wilson and other people, Dr. Bobby Wright, people like ancestors like that, and just their critical analysis of the world and whatnot, and then thinking about mathematics and then seeing how a lot of the principles in math and the concepts in math very much align themselves with a lot of political science concepts and psychological concepts. And I just be sitting there wow, this makes sense now, so I'm looking at it differently. But man, the more I study math, I'm yeah, they don't want us to learn this.
Yeah, we gotta change our perspective towards math.
This could be a problem.
I think this is a conversation that has to continue.
I'll come back.
That's some stuff going on
but
here.
Y'all got comfortable chairs too.
CMP Radio, the voice of Chester. All right. So Akil, if you could just leave us with some quick takeaways before we finish up. I mean, this has been a very engaging conversation. I mean, we're talking about stuff that people don't talk about. Yeah. And that's what parental the purpose is here. Is we talk about uncomfortable conversations because math is not a conversation that we see in the community. Nope. We don't really talk about that. So I'm glad that you're here to really open up our eyes and understand how math is not just math.
Right.
It is. It's not trash. Math is not trash. Right. Because we all about this math. But how important it is in everyday living. And how important it is. I think one of the things that I think for me the takeaway is, and which I've been saying over and over again, is that parents are the first educators. And how important parents educating our children so that when they go to school, it's practice. I like that. That is not new knowledge. So can you just leave the audience with a little couple takeaways before we leave out of here? Yeah,
definitely. So do everything in your power to, if you are a parent that kind of from time to time makes comments such as, that speaks to the irrelevance of math or the stupidity of math, or even when your children come home with the homework and it's different from the way in which you learned it years ago, not have that type of commentary around math, because what it does is it creates it furthers a narrative, and it creates an idea in the mind of your child that math is in fact irrelevant when it is very relevant. And what that does is that since math is a gatekeeper for STEM careers and STEM professions, it in a way makes it much more difficult, if not impossible, for them to gain access to STEM careers. So that's what's actually happening. Because math is the major gatekeeper. One of the things the late Bob Moses said in his book, Radical Equations, he said that mathematics education is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. And it's something that we don't really talk about, right? It's kind of hidden in plain view, right? It's really all about the math. The math is all roads lead to the math. Definitely make a conscious decision to, as you said, become to have the desire to become the primary educator of your children. That's easier said than done. I understand that. I'm not going to try to romanticize it. It's going to require work, right? But think about the alternative. If you don't do that, right, think about how hard that's going to be, because that's going to have consequences as well, right? We cannot depend on the schools. We can't, right? We just can't. We see that. We see it all around. We've seen it for years, right? We have to be honest with ourselves. So we got to figure out ways to take more ownership over our children's education, right? We have to be able to do that. And it's going to require some work. We're going to have to learn some stuff. You might have to learn some algebra. And then another thing too, this is one thing I really enjoy saying. A lot of parents are triggered by math homework that their children bring home. Because if your child is in 6th grade and they bring home some math homework, and then you go back to that place when you was in 6th grade and you was sitting in class and you was about to cry because you didn't know how to do something, or your teacher might have been mean to you. So you're still it's like object permanence. Like you go back to that moment, right?
Yeah.
You like stuck in the past, right? Think about this. You're 30 now. You're 40 now. You're 50. You're smarter now.
Yeah.
You know more now. You have more life experience. Back then, your frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed. You didn't even know how to fully think as well as you do now.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
So the math that you didn't understand when you was in 6th grade, I would say that there's a strong possibility that you would be able to catch on to it now. You will be able to. I'm confident in you. So again, a lot of times, because we go back to that place when we was in 6th grade or when we was in 8th grade, right? And we just say, oh no, because I remember back then. You're not back then no more.
Right.
You've lived life. You've been married, been divorced, had boyfriends, had girlfriends. You got some kids. You've been grocery shopping. You've been living on your own, traveled around the country, took trips to the Bahamas. You did all this stuff. All of those life experiences will help you to understand mathematics homework.
That's good.
All of that. And your frontal lobe, like I said, think about the neuroscience. Your frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed back then. Now it is.
Wait. You got more. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, let me say this too. Everybody that watches this, make sure you subscribe to the All This Math YouTube channel. The All This Math YouTube channel for math support. We got over 800 videos ranging from arithmetic up to calculus. Anything you need, it's on there. If it's not on there, it's going to be on there, right? It'll be on there, at some point, right? I want that to be the place you go to as a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, to get to understand the math that you want to help your children with. And I want your children to go there too, to get the help with the homework that they need, Also, my book, How to Use All This Math, Volume 1, is available on Amazon, $34.95. Volume 2 is behind schedule. It was supposed to come out in September, but life happens. But it will be out.
There's some math going on.
It's the second, it's the second book in the series. It's the second book in the series. It's coming. Right. It's coming soon. Yeah.
All right. And we'll post this on our Facebook page, Parenting with a Purpose Facebook page, all about all this math and all the resources that Akil has to offer to parents and students to make this thing better, make this thing livable, make this thing okay. So we'll definitely share those resources with you guys if you follow us on our Parenting with a Purpose Facebook page. And this was just like an amazing conversation. Pam,
yes.
You got anything to say, Pam?
No.
All Pam was doing was smiling all night, y'all. She's just like, this is a genius.
Because
like,
I have to go back home and do a lot of things.
You got to get an analog clock in that house.
That's number one.
That'll help.
But anything else, Pam, you got to say? Or
No. Again, thank you, Akil, for taking the time to come on the show to help educate us in math, so we can get that fear, knowing that we are no longer that kid. We are now the parent. We know more. We have more resources, and let's just tap into them. I also wanted to say, don't forget to tap into Parenting with a Purpose, because these are the resources and the information that we are bringing to our people, for our children that are going somewhere. And also check us out on all platforms for our podcast. We'll be back 7 p.m. next Thursday.
Girl, that's Thanksgiving.
Oh, we are on break, so we'll be back December the 5th.
Yes.
December the 5th, we'll be back. live.
Yep, for another engaging conversation. Again, thanks you guys for pouring in Parenting with a Purpose. We really hope that you continue to follow us and collect all these resources, collect them and use them so that we can better our people.
Yes.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Yes.